guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a brand new Liverpool video where we have to talk about will FSG sack Jurgen Klopp? Do you want Jurgen Klopp to be sacked or not? Because an increasingly growing number of Liverpool fans want Jurgen Klopp out of the club. I can't believe that we are at this stage 7 or 8 years after Jurgen Klopp has took over Liverpool, and I think he is the best manager that Liverpool had for the past 30 years, and I think he should be probably the last person after a lot of other people are out of Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp should be one of the last people to get sacked. I'm still firmly a believer that if the January transfer window, if FSG finally pull their finger out and spend some serious money and bring in a world-class player, a midfielder that Liverpool desperately need, that Jurgen Klopp can still turn this season around. And I will explain my reasons why, and we will look at the data and analysis of Liverpool's expected goals and also the expected conceded goals of this season, and also what the pundits said after Liverpool's horrendous defeat to Leeds United. But actually Liverpool had enough chances to win that game, but because our defense is so shaky, and I don't know why Joe Gomez keeps starting. Why didn't Konate start? He was on the bench, and Joe Gomez should have been substituted at halftime, like he was substituted when he had a horror show against Napoli when Liverpool lost 4-1 and Matip came on in the second half. Liverpool looked a little bit better, but Joe Gomez never got substituted yesterday, and I don't know why. Maybe Konate wasn't fully fit and he was just an insurance policy. Jurgen Klopp is to blame for some of the substitutions and for some of the tactics, and maybe for running this team and these players into the ground, because Liverpool's tactics on Jurgen Klopp is so taxing that a shelf life of a top tier modern footballer becomes shorter under Jurgen Klopp. But my main criticism of Jurgen Klopp is he thought that we don't need a midfielder signing until the last few days of the transfer window, when Liverpool clearly had an incredible injury crisis and Liverpool realized that we are well short. And then we signed Arthur, who is another injury-prone player, on loan. He was like an emergency panic signing, and that didn't work out because he is always injured. But when you look at Liverpool's midfield, Thiago is 31, Henderson is 31, Fabinho is 29, and I think Fabinho has been run into the ground. He has been a shadow of his former self, but we basically don't have a brilliant backup player for Fabinho. Henderson should be that player. When Fabinho needs the rest, that's only when Henderson should play in the out-and-out defensive midfield role. But we use Henderson as a number 8, as a box-to-box midfielder, and I don't understand why. And Liverpool have a couple of players who are at the right age. Naby Keita is 27, Oxlade-Chamberlain is 29, but they are both always injured, so you can't rely on them. And then Liverpool have youngsters, Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, they are 19 and 21, Fabio Carvalho, 19 years old as well. You can't, and I said this many times before, you can't rely on these players to keep Liverpool in the top 4. And at the moment, this season is an absolute car crash, and FSG have to take massive responsibility for that, and I want the owners out. I'm firmly in the FSG out camp, or just back Jurgen Klopp and invest in the side. We probably needed one world-class midfielder in the summer, but right now Liverpool, it looks like we need 2 or 3 world-class midfield players to be signed in January, and that's not happening. We will be happy to sign one because FSG don't usually do January transfer deals. But look at how much it galvanized Liverpool when we signed Luis Diaz last January. That only came because Tottenham entered the race and wanted to sign him, and then Liverpool acted. Liverpool have money in the bank. We have the highest revenues, surpassing Manchester United in the Premier League right now. So how come Liverpool are not spending money on really necessary midfield signings? And this run that Liverpool have 4 wins, 4 draws and 4 defeats after 12 games, that's not good enough to have 16 points. We are now an absolute mile away from the title race. We are 13 points behind Man City, and even top 4 we are like 9 or 10 points behind Newcastle or something like that. So that's an absolute crazy. And of course, injuries didn't help either, and we will look at that a little bit later in this video. But James York is saying, he's a data analyst, that you should still keep faith with Liverpool because to compare it to another hard-running team, when Tottenham declined at the end of the Pochettino era, the metrics fell apart completely. Tottenham's goals, expected goals scored, went from 2.5 to around 1.3, 1.5, and their expected goals conceded went from 0.5, 0.6 to 1, and then later 1.5. So Tottenham's metrics fell apart. But Liverpool's metrics are actually pretty decent. Going forward, we are still have an XG of around 1.92 on average per game. Our expected goals conceded has increased massively though, and that's the biggest problem. If we could sort out our defense somehow, and I think Konate should be playing alongside Van Dijk, but that's the other problem. Like, Van Dijk has been overplayed. He played every single minute of this season so far in the Premier League, at least I think, and so he can't get rested because we don't have enough backup players. We have Matip and Konate out injured at the same time, and that's a recipe for disaster because Joe Gomez looks like his two very serious injuries made him a shadow of his former self. But Liverpool's XG went from 0.6 to now we have an XG XG conceded 1.2, 1.3. That's where we stand. But actually, I think if Liverpool could sort somehow out the defending, then we would be fine. And I really was hoping that Konate coming back hopefully can fix our defense. But it looks like he is also at the moment struggling with injuries. And Liverpool still have a core of young players. But it's absolutely criminal that when we won the Champions League in 2019 and we won the Premier League in 2020, we didn't invest into the squad back then when we were on a top. And we also needed to invest in the midfield area after we sold Wijnaldum. I mean, the Premier League panel tweeted that Liverpool not replacing the midfielder Wijnaldum, who played the most minutes of Liverpool for 5 seasons in a row, and he also had a big tactical role. And that decision to not replace Wijnaldum with a like-for-like player is one of the poorest recruitment decisions that you will see in world football. And that's the margins of losing the Premier League title twice by 1 point. And it looks like Liverpool repeated that error this summer that's just gone by. We still haven't replaced Wijnaldum, which is absolutely criminal. And I don't understand how Liverpool are reluctant to sign a midfielder when actually our recruitment record under Jurgen Klopp is absolutely stellar. So why are the owners or Liverpool or whoever is in charge of transfers, why are they afraid to sign a midfielder who is not Tchouaméni and Bellingham? Yes, you might not get a world-class midfielder who can play in the Liverpool midfield for 10 years, but don't tell me there is no midfielder available in that age bracket of 24 to 27 between that who could help Liverpool. Renato Sanchez was available on a free transfer, I think. Cassie was available on a free transfer. How many videos have I made on Liverpool should be signing those players? But Matheus Nunes wanted to go to Liverpool. In the end, Wolves signed him. Yes, he's not a world beater, of course. But right now, when Liverpool are down to the absolute bare bones, we are struggling against Leeds United, and we bring on 36-year-old James Milner to try to help us win the game. We are bringing on Jordan Henderson to try and help us win the game. I mean, no disrespect, but those players are not at their prime anymore. They are declining massively. Henderson's legs are gone, and his tactical awareness is gone, and he was never a brilliant technical midfielder either. And yes, there is an argument that when we won the Premier League, when we won the Champions League, Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool thought, yes, we have a brilliant squad, we don't really need to add to it. But since then, when we missed out on the Premier League, when we only just scraped the top 4 in the COVID season, when we had so many injuries, then we only signed Konate. That was our one major transfer in that summer transfer window. Liverpool needed to strengthen, and we haven't. And that's down to FSG and whoever is in charge of transfers at Liverpool, and they are massively to blame for this. And that's what I don't understand, that for years Liverpool has pretty much a perfect transfer strategy. What happened last summer that has just gone that Liverpool thought we didn't need a midfield transfer? Maybe Jurgen Klopp said to the owners, I'm fine with the 8 midfield options, but as I said, half of them are over 30 years old and they are frankly declining massively. They just can't keep up with the frenetic pace of the Premier League and also the frenetic intensity of Jurgen Klopp's tactics. These older players can't keep up with it anymore. They are absolutely cooked. And yes, you can blame injuries for that as well, because Liverpool sometimes had to select teams that was selected by the physio team, by the doctors, on who is fit enough to play, and not who Jurgen Klopp wanted to play in terms of tactical setup. But that's also down to the squad being very thin. If you fill it with injury-prone players, old players, and teenagers, in the case of Curtis Jones, 21-year-old, who is also very injury prone, and I mean last night Curtis Jones, he came on as a substitute and there was a moment where he could have slipped in Bobby Firmino. Bobby Firmino is like saying that there is a huge gap in front of me, slip me below. Curtis Jones does a fake shot and then another, and then he blasts it into the defender's leg, who was there 1 yard away from Curtis Jones already. So those are the little moments where Liverpool need to make better decisions. And yes, Curtis Jones is a good young talent, Harvey Elliott as well. But we are relying on these guys to carry Liverpool back into the top 4, and that's not what they can do. They can develop when they are, coming on as substitutes, but also to expect Harvey Elliott to start 3 games every week and to deliver world-class performance after world-class performance, to expect that from a 19-year-old player is not fair on him, because he shouldn't be the player who is starting for Liverpool every week. It should be a 24, 25, 26-year-old midfielder with bags of experience already at the top of his game, who still has a long career ahead of him, who is hungry and who has of course legs to run for days, and who can tackle and get stuck in, because Fabinho, I've said that already, he has been overplayed so much that his legs are gone. He's absolutely exhausted. He has to play pretty much every game and he isn't being rotated because we don't have another out and out defensive midfielder who is really, really good. I mean, we have Henderson, but Jurgen Klopp doesn't play him as a defensive midfielder mainly. And I think this is make or break for FSG. If the FSG, the owners, don't back Jurgen Klopp in the January transfer window, then there should be absolute riots and protests at every home game. And I think if I was in charge of a Liverpool supporting group, I would already protest against the owners at the Liverpool-Napoli game. I would already, put up banners to support Jurgen Klopp, spend some money in the January transfer window, bring in a world-class or close to world-class midfielder for serious amount of money in January, because the January signing galvanizes the whole team, the whole squad, the whole club, the fan base and the manager as well, and it gives fresh new push towards the second half of the season. And of course Liverpool need to get their injured players back. That's the only hope that we will be better after the World Cup. But if the World Cup exhausts half of our squad, and if we pick up more injuries at the World Cup, then the World Cup break won't solve Liverpool's issues. That's my honest opinion. Let me know what is yours in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a nice day. See you later. Goodbye.